So today's video is a story of how I met two Japanese shamisen players called KiKi and how we ended up traveling the world together. And a little bit about how this basically became my job, how it took me out of a corporate job that I'd worked for nearly a decade and into a brand new world of getting to travel and enjoy Japanese music and make videos. And you know what? If I don't leave this hotel room right away, we're gonna be late, so let's just get going. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
We're in Vancouver, and while the weather is actually really nice right now, it snowed this morning. It's weird to see the mix of cherry blossom petals and snow. The girls are actually doing like a tour of Vancouver right now. So we've had like performances, events, workshops, pretty much every single day since we've got here, and today's our last day. There's a marathon today, so the streets are like empty, and we're just about at the girls' hotel. So this is Hikari and this is Kanami, and together they're a Japanese shamisen duo called KiKi. And while right now these two are top level Japanese shamisen players and we are touring the world together sharing their music, it wasn't always like this. So let me go back a little bit so I can tell you the story from the beginning. So the story actually starts back in about 2011. It was, I believe, January of 2011. I'd gone out to Meiji Shrine to check out the Coming of Age Day ceremony, which is one of my favorite ceremonies here in Japan. And afterwards I went into Shibuya, and for some reason all the streets were closed off for performances. As I was walking along the street, I ran into these two shamisen players who were just playing on the street. But we didn't talk at that time, right?
No.
At the time, all I had was like a little iPod Touch, so I took a bit of a video of them, didn't put it online. In fact, it wasn't until probably 6 months to a year later when I ran into them again at Yoyogi Park that I actually recorded a proper video on a DSLR that I had just bought for the first time, by the way. By that time, I had actually just started my own shamisen training, and so I asked the girls if it was okay to put the video up on YouTube. They said
yes.
We rehearsed that. And that was kind of the first time I ever really seriously put something up on YouTube. I named the YouTube channel Shamisen in Tokyo, and I pretty much intended on putting up like every single piece of shamisen music from any player that I found around the city. But after a couple months of recording different players, the only pieces that I really felt were upload worthy were the ones from KiKi. So I kept recording them, kept uploading them, and then one day something really interesting happened. A few years after all of that, we ended up performing at the exact same event. KiKi was like the main act for that event, and somehow, I still don't know how, I ended up playing before them. So funny side story. I have the good fortune to actually be learning from the Yoshida brothers, and one of them showed up to support me at the performance and sat like right in the front row. And KiKi didn't expect him to be there. So they came out and saw him and they were like, wait, why is one of the Yoshida brothers here? That night was a good start. We had a chance to have some food, some oden, and drink, and that was kind of the start of our friendship. So now shortly after this that I realized that very first video that I uploaded of them had hit over 10,000 views. So I invited them over for coffee so we could like celebrate them. And then we made the very first ever like KiKi promo video on Shamisen in Tokyo.
We came to Tokyo 8 years ago.
So we just watched that video yesterday, and the two girls were like, oh my god, it's so embarrassing to see now. And all of this gave birth to a project. I started to shoot pretty much every single performance that KiKi would do in the hopes of someday making a documentary, but we also started a series called Shamisen Under the Cherry Blossoms, and it was started with the entire purpose of landing us future work. So we're like literally like in the middle of a forest right now. There's like a pond over here. I don't even know what this is. There's some Canadian geese over there. Canada. Under the Cherry Blossoms video came up because Sakura season itself was right around the corner, and the first year we didn't actually do the video with the girls in kimono. We just had them in what's called fudangi, which is just their normal clothing, and there was an old man who just like walked through this frame in like the middle of the video, but we liked it so much that we just left it in the final version and then uploaded it. The next year we decided to do it again, and it was around the third year that we decided to put the girls in kimono and really give some impact to the video. And while the Shamisen Under the Cherry Blossoms video series was popular, it did take at least 3 years for them to start gaining any real traction. So, in between these videos, we would just travel the country together. We would go up to the Shamisen Taikai in Aomori. We went down to like Shikoku. We basically just go all over the place and do performances and make music. But the girls have a performance up in like 15-20 minutes. So I'm gonna let them get prepped for that, and we'll talk about this a little more afterwards. Performance is finally finished. Vancouver 楽しかったね。楽しかった。Yeah. So that kind of brings us back to where we were before, talking about putting up content and making videos like the Shamisen Under the Cherry Blossoms videos. I just introduced the girls to the green apple suckers. I don't know if you've ever had these, but I love them. No. Yeah, it's really good. So the more content we made and the more the videos started to spread out, the more the job offers started to come in. Most of them were in Japan, but in this time I found myself kind of becoming like a producer or manager or something. It was at the same time exciting and overwhelming and everything, but it was at this time that I made KiKi a promise, and I promised them that I would take them overseas at some point.
I remember.
I remember. Now, even at the time, I was very aware of how bold of a promise it was that I would take them overseas for a performance someday. But considering that was part of the plan when I first started everything, I had confidence that I'd be able to pull it off. I knew it was just going to take consistent work and, above all else, patience. Which, by the way, is something that a lot of people seem to really undervalue in the grand scheme of things. I probably could have squeezed it in a much shorter time, but all too often people will trade out the long-term win for some kind of short-term gain, and it's not worth the sacrifice. So I wanted to do this properly, which means I knew it was going to take some time. Did you bite it?
Yeah. Wow.
Just wow. So with all that being said, it brings us a little closer to where we are now, which is how we started getting overseas, but I'll tell you guys about that in a minute. So around 2017, the offers started coming in, but pretty much every offer would fall through right away when they realized the intense cost of bringing 2 to 3 people all the way overseas to do a show. I'll spare you all the details, but it's not cheap. It was actually around that time that I started this channel. I thought it might be nice to also showcase some of the behind the scenes on my adventures and the adventures I was doing with KiKi, so there's that. And it was shortly after starting Tokyo Lens that we got our first really serious offer for a job overseas. The job was actually for here, Canada, Vancouver. KiKi's gonna do some shopping. I'll see you guys later. And And that was only the first of the overseas shows to roll in, and it was good practice and it was a good warm-up for everything that would follow, because since then we got offers for places like Italy, Australia, the States, like you name it. In fact, in May, Hikari is going to Germany while Kanami and I go to the States, so that'll be fun. But the point is that we're here, and what got us here was consistently pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone to put up content. You see, when I put up that very first introduction video of KiKi that I showed at the beginning, the girls were wildly uncomfortable, but they really wanted to do it, and that level of perseverance despite the discomfort is definitely one of the things that inspired me to start Tokyo Lens. I can honestly say that if it wasn't for meeting KiKi and working on the projects that we're doing together, that this channel right here that you're watching right now wouldn't exist. That, in my mind, that's a win in its own. But that being said, I've got to buy some omiyage or gifts and then find the girls. We have a dinner in like 20 minutes. But it just goes to show the amazing things that can happen if you actually push yourself to consistently step outside of your comfort zone. And I really like that message. My last morning in Vancouver before heading back to Tokyo, so Tim Hortons. Like, it's not even particularly great coffee, but it's Tim Hortons, so it's one of those Canadian ritual things that you've got to do before you go back. Alright, so getting back to the main topic. By this point, I've explained how I met KiKi and hopefully given a rough idea of how this became my job. More than anything, it came down to just believing in my own vision of the future and just consistently executing on that, despite any failure, roadblocks, or challenges that came up in the way. I knew that making content was going to be the key when I first started, which is why we took this approach, and so far, every single job that we've done overseas has come out of this content that we've made. I never could have imagined when I bought my first DSLR that it would eventually lead to me getting paid to travel the world with some of Japan's best shamisen players, let alone have an entire channel of my own to share all of this with you. And the three of us, like all three, not just me, I want to say that we have so much gratitude for each one of you who takes the time to actually watch the content that we've made. You might feel like you're just sitting there watching something, but you're really contributing and helping. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, fish. And there we go, back in Japan. And actually today, the day that I'm releasing this video, we just arrived back in Japan and the girls are releasing their first major album through a label. Like, I'm talking like CDs in stores and Spotify, you know, it's all gonna be linked down below if you're interested. But the best part of all of this is that it's not even close to the end of our plans. The future is still very bright. Now, I've tried not to go too deeply into the more technical or boring details, but hopefully still giving you kind of an idea of how we got here. And this video is actually based on one of the most popular episodes of the Tokyo Lens podcast that I've ever done. So I'm gonna link that down below in case you're interested in hearing a more detailed version of this. Now that I'm back, I've got to start getting this office sorted out. I've managed to unpack a couple of the boxes, but I think it's gonna have to wait because tomorrow I'm doing a day trip out to a samurai battlefield, something I've never done before, so this will be something new. Thank you guys so much for watching up to this point in the video. It would mean the world to me if you guys would give that like button some love. If you enjoyed this one, maybe share it somewhere. Definitely leave me something in the comments. I will see you guys again in just a couple days. So I'm gonna get to work on this for now, pack my bags for tomorrow, and you guys know I will see you again real soon. Thanks, guys.